All right, and welcome everybody. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to our Friday Coaching Cafe. My name is Bridget Calvert and I'm part of the Open Door coaching team. And I have with me, of course, Paula Jones-Hunt, who is our resident HR specialist, who's also part of the Open Door team. So hi, Paula.
Hello, everyone.
And great to have you with me here today and everyone else. So today we are talking about performance. Sorry, this is me. If anyone who's been on a webinar with me before will know that that this can happen often. Today we're talking about taking a coaching approach to performance review. So I'm really looking forward to talking with you, talking with Paula, and bringing in everyone that's on the call to contribute to this conversation as well. And before we start, I would just like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which we meet today and their continuing connection to the land, waters and communities of Australia. We pay our respects to them and to their elders, past, present and emerging. Okay, so let's have a look at our agenda for today. We will be talking about annual performance reviews and the impact of annual performance reviews and how we can take a coaching approach to performance reviews. We'll be talking about why it's so important. And we'll also have a look at sharing our model, how we approach performance reviews. And we're lucky to have Paula on the line with us today because she can also share her wealth of knowledge and experience on this topic.
Sorry to interrupt, Bridget, but we're not seeing it roll through. We're still on the calendar slide.
Is that right? Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks for letting me know. So I am going to stop the share for a moment, and I'm going to go back into the non-presenter slides, and I will share that screen and see if that makes a difference. How's that?
I can see the agenda for today. If you're in there and you're on chat and you don't see the agenda, let us know.
Fantastic. So it's all there then. So I was pressing it one by one, which is pretty clever in presenter mode, I know, but we'll run with this. So we'll be sharing our model in terms of how we approach performance reviews. And what I'd really like is for us to generate some questions together when we get to that point, the kinds of questions that we can ask when we're having performance reviews based on a coaching approach. I'd also like for us to create that sense of community, that shared learning experience, and have some thought-provoking conversations. Those looking for their ICF CCEUs, I will put up a certificate at the end of our time together today so that you can take a screenshot of that. So I'll be doing that at the end of our time together. So let's get started. Why are these conversations so important? Why are annual reviews or reviews so important? Well, let's have a look at what the Gallup polls say. So a Gallup poll that was completed suggested that employees who strongly agree that they had conversations with their managers in the past 6 months about their goals and successes are 2.8 times more likely to be engaged. However, traditional approaches to performance evaluation are deeply flawed and often do more harm than good. So, for example, 14% of employees strongly agree that the reviews they receive inspire them to perform better. It's a really low number. And only 26% of employees strongly agree that they are accurate. Only 29% strongly agree that they're fair. And not surprisingly, the result that performance reviews actually make performance worse about 1/3 of the time seems to be the result. So that's also a Gallup questionnaire as well. So just thinking about the differences there between more regular coaching conversations, performance reviews, as well as those more traditional approaches. Paula, I might just call upon you to offer your, perspective on what your perspective is on this.
Yeah, and we actually talked about a lot of this in the last webinar session, and it generally comes down to what the purpose of the conversation is about. So if you're looking, and how the manager actually approaches it as they're going in. So if they approach it as a tick a box exercise, which across my career, I have seen a lot of tick a box managers trying to just get through it and get the job done. That's when you're going to get that when it goes backwards. So as opposed to inspiring someone to look at what's coming up and what's happening, they go, oh, it was just a tick a box exercise. Nobody cares about me. So I'll just retreat a little bit. I also think too that the old approach, where it was just a 6-month or a 12-month conversation, leaves a lot of time in there for things that have happened. And as you and I both know, feedback is one of those really key pieces that the sooner you give the feedback, the more impact and the more effective it actually is. So if managers have left it and you only get 2 conversations a year, it's actually not going to be felt as effective as if they were regular conversations, and the performance review is just a review of the 12 conversations you've had over that period of time. But yes, there's plenty of people who tell you they've had the worst performance reviews and it made them not want to come to work the next day, which is where employee engagement just crashes and burns, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, just adding to that, so looking at, as you say, those 6 or 12-month those appraisals or those performance reviews that demonstrate that it's not all that important, and they either get cancelled or, as you say, those tick boxes, let's just get this over and done with and get back to what we were doing. And also to the idea about focusing on potentially things that they've done wrong, as opposed to focusing on strengths, for example. So, when that focus is on things that perhaps have been done wrong or things that need improving, when the focus is that below the line kind of focus, it's depleting. I think it's certainly not motivating, and people walk away feeling sort of the shoulders down and feeling really quite deflated around who they are, and what they contribute to the organisation. What do you think, Paula, about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And fundamentally, the reason we do performance reviews is because it's a relationship building process. And people, most of us, it's based on relationships and knowing that we're doing the right thing or that we're traveling in the right direction. And so that's why those conversations are so important, because they're a key to helping the person that you're managing, or the people that you're managing, to know, am I in the right place? Am I on the right target? Am I moving in the right direction? If I need help, how do I get help? What do I need to do, so that they're not left floundering and wondering what's going on?
Absolutely. And also that subliminal message that, we value you. We're interested in who you are, what you're doing, how you can improve or build upon the strengths that you're demonstrating, tweaking things potentially, or lifting, shifting, changing, raising that performance in a way that's going to support the person to continue doing well or do even better. So let's do something about that. Let's have a look at what we can do to, focus our approach, or take a coaching approach to performance reviews, where we ditch or get rid of that old traditional way of doing performance reviews, where we're potentially focusing on weaknesses, or we're focusing on what the employee is not doing rather than what they are doing, telling people potentially what they should be doing, and the employee just accepting that, as opposed to having some sort of buy-in to that conversation. So
I think too, Bridget, it's about breaking the assumptions. It's what you think the employee knows it about, versus what does the employee think about how they're going, what they're doing, what their challenges are. So it's about stepping back and not making assumptions, I guess.
100%. It's going in with that, you know, as coaches, we go in with that, you know, that level of curiosity and that growth mindset, because, you know, I believe you can. I believe that you can do this, and I believe you can contribute to the conversation, and I want to know what's important to you. So, you know, we're, rather than focusing on weaknesses, we want to focus on strengths and that high performance and the things that we do want to see, rather than the things that we don't want to see. And also too, I think making sure that the employee is writing the plan. Would you agree, Paula, that they are actually writing the plan and designing those sort of achievable chunks of, you know, the goals that are spread out to achieve certain chunks, those milestones along the way that demonstrate that you are achieving what it is that you want to achieve.
Yeah, and there are some companies that there are certain goals that are pre-required, and you know that's because in order to achieve company goals they need that, and that's okay. But the question is, you can achieve it in lots of different ways. So how would you as the employee achieve your part of it? So even if you don't get to decide what all the goals are, it's how are you going to do it? What will it look like for you?
100%, absolutely. So it becomes individual. It becomes something that, you know, it's, the way that I approach it is aligned with those organisational values and those results that we're looking to achieve as an organisation. So therefore, I guess the employee is taking responsibility for what they're achieving. They're going to be more confident because they have trust that's put into them. They're more motivated to do well. The whole conversation, the whole conversation shifts to a more positive perspective. So let's have a look then at our Open Doors performance conversation model. So here we have our performance conversation model that focuses on different areas of performance. So to start off with, we have our conversation focus on the positive things that are happening. You know, what's going well for you at the moment, and what have you achieved? What are you particularly proud of at the moment? How do you play to your strengths, and how would you like to celebrate? So those questions are really focused on that above the line approach, looking at what the employee is doing well, what they're bringing, focusing on their strengths. Yes, it's setting up this performance conversation for success. Paula, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and look, the key to all of the coaching tools and the questions is really about making them feel right for you. So if you would ask that question in a slightly different way, so perhaps what's going well for you, or what are you particularly proud of? I might ask the question, what are the wins you've had this month? Because that sounds like me. So you can flex with the questions and make it sound like you. Anyone who knows me knows I use the word amazing about 300 times a day. So you know, what are the amazing things that happened this month for you? So when you're in that proud one, it's really, but it's all about focusing on what went well, what did you tick a box on, what did you achieve, what did you really blow out of the water, so that you start from this space of positivity.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And look, I'd like to throw it out to the group, if I may, just in regard to thinking about the kinds of questions that you might ask, tailoring those kinds of questions, those proud questions, so that you're setting that performance conversation up for success. So if I might, let's just throw it out to the group now, just to see what kinds of questions could you come up with that might suit the way you like to ask questions, that would allow people to consider what they're proud of, what their successes have been. What do you think? I'm just going to put it out there to the group. Let's have a look. I'll just move the chat box down there. Let's see what comes through. Think about the kinds of questions that you could ask when you're opening up for a performance review, thinking about, how do I set this conversation up for success so that people can think about what they've done well? Here's a good one. Kim, thank you. What was a key highlight for you since our last catch-up? Fantastic. Love that. That's great. Any others? I think focusing on strengths too. I mean, there's a question there, how did you play to your strengths? But also to which strengths were you able to use? And how did they support what it is that you achieve? So really focusing on, rather than just strengths as a general overview, but really tap into what strengths were you able to bring? What strengths did you demonstrate or were able to use this week or this month? I think that's great. Thanks, Rebecca. So really setting that up for success. So what activity really energized you this month? I love that. That's great. Looking at the things that energize us, the things that fulfill us. That we, so we can go home and say, I had a really great day today. Those things that we really love doing, and how we were able to succeed in those particular things.
It can also be around people too. So who did you work with this month that you had a really great relationship with, or that you had a really great experience with? What did you get to do this month that was different, that you don't normally do, that you really enjoyed doing?
Yeah, I like that too. I think it's not just about the task. It's not just about the environment. It's also about the relationships that we have with the people around us. It also could, in this space, we could also talk about how we feel about particular things as well. How are we feeling? What are we thinking about? Who's in our space that we were able to connect with, and what were the successes with them? Just, how do we collaborate? So it's really, setting that conversation up for success. So once we've done that and we've set that conversation up for success, and we've talked about all the things that we're proud of and all the great things that have been happening since our last catch up, we can move into looking at the flip side of the coin, if you like, and having a look at some of the challenges that might exist for that person. So questions such as, where have you been experiencing challenges? What have been the impact of those challenges? How have you overcome those challenges? Or how can you overcome those challenges? What is still outstanding? And what strengths can you call on? So again, that strengths focus around the challenges and how we might be able to overcome those. So it really sets up for a good conversation around some of those challenges or obstacles that have gotten in the way, to be able to review and reflect and get some insight into that, and talk about how do we actually overcome that challenge, and what can we do? What perspective can we take? So it really allows for that valuable conversation. So again, I'm going to throw it out to the group to think about, what other kinds of questions could we ask if we want to discover perhaps some of the challenges or obstacles that have presented themselves since you caught up last with this person that you're having a conversation with. Any ideas around what we could ask here? Did you strike any roadblocks?
I like that one.
What goals didn't you achieve, and why? We could certainly talk about the goals that we didn't achieve and what happened for that to occur. How are you feeling about the challenges you face? Yep, terrific. Some really great questions here. Well done.
I think the key in this one too is, it's not that performance conversations, whilst we absolutely want to look at strengths, because that's the key for motivation and moving forward, is that we do have to acknowledge that not everything works every day, and you're allowed to, and this is the bit where the person gets to have a chat about what really annoyed them. But it's about not dwelling on the annoyance, which is where in the second part of this it turns to, how did you overcome that, or how will you overcome that? So this is also about not making this, all fairies and rainbows and lollipops.
Yeah.
We all get that in the work environment and in your life, things don't go quite right. And let's talk about it, but then let's put the coaching approach in that says, let's move to the next step, because if we just dwell in it, it won't get us anywhere.
100%. And I think too that this is another example of, that being below the line versus, shifting ourselves above the line. So when we stay below the line, or we're feeling that we're stuck in the challenge and we're not finding any way to control it or influence, influence. It keeps us in that mindset that's demotivating. Essentially what we want to do is take that coaching approach and bring ourselves or support others to bring themselves above the line, to look for what's possible and to look at what options are available. So yeah, absolutely. Vent and have that time to really think about, you know what, this is not happening for me, or whatever's going on. Okay, that's, acknowledge that. How do we resolve this? How do we overcome it? What do we do to get to where we need to be? Charmaine says, what were the awkward or uncomfortable moments? Yeah, absolutely. What did you do that contributed to that? Nice question. That's taking responsibility. How did you overcome it? And how could you learn to do it differently next time? Yeah, love that. That's really great.
And I was just going to say, also when it's, if it's a person that you're having a challenge with, what do you know about that person? What do you know about what's important to them? What do you know about what their challenges are, or what their, what's the pressures they're having? And once you know all of that, what's the next approach that you could take with them?
Yeah, I like that too. And that, links back to what you were saying before about making assumptions too. So making sure that our communication's really clear and that we're able to have those feedback conversations early on and be able to communicate and really build that culture where we can, approach people and have those open and honest conversations if it is about people that happens to be the challenge. Kim says, what challenges did you experience over this period that made it harder to achieve your goals or deliver against expectations? Really like that. That's absolutely great. So all of these questions are really tapping into understanding the person and understanding what's happening for the person, and also how can we overcome those barriers, those obstacles, or those challenges, so that the conversation, even though we've been able to talk about those challenges, acknowledge those challenges, we're able to then move and take that coaching approach to say, hey, okay, so let's talk about how we can make improvements. So from the challenges then, we move into the improvement part of this conversation. So questions such as, what can you focus on for continuous improvement? What would you like to change or do differently? What would be the benefit of these changes? Again, some really valuable and insightful questions there. And I'm wondering, I'm going to throw it out again to the group to think, what other kinds of continuous improvement questions could we ask that's going to help or support that person move from the challenge focus to how can we fix this? How can we improve it? What do we need to do to move forward? What are some of the questions you think that you might be able to add to your toolkit to be able to have these types of performance conversations? Have a think about that for a moment. What do you need from me to help you move forward in the way of resources? Absolutely, great. So focusing on resources and support is really, really important. Thanks, Leanne. Thinking about your strengths. What are the 1 or 2 next steps you could take to achieve your goal? Absolutely. So again, calling upon our strengths to be able to support us, to be able to make change and to move forward. What motivates you to get your job done? Nice one, Emily. I like that. And what area would you like to grow in? Yeah, absolutely beautiful. So thanks, Charmaine. So it's looking at, focusing on the person in front of you because I value you. I want to know how you want to grow. I want to know what's going to be important to you to motivate you to get your job done. Some really inspiring questions there. Well done.
I'd also add in, what does success look like for you? Okay. So if you were working on this challenging project, what would success look like for you? What are the relationships you'd like to have with people in different parts of the business? What would this feel like for you if you were moving in a positive direction?
100%. I think those visual questions, the kinesthetic, tapping into the kinesthetic, that feeling, when we're able to design that in our mind's eye and look at what we're walking towards, it makes it so much clearer to be able to build that path or walk that path toward that end result. And of course, if you're having regular performance conversations, you are able to tap into the steps along the way to get to that outcome, rather than this 6-month, 12-month conversation where you've lost everything you've spoken about and it's pretty much gone by the time you get to the following year. But you're having these more regular, focused conversations, you know, on a much more regular basis. So that person feels like, yes, okay, let's plan for the next, you know, 4 weeks, 2 months. Let's talk about that, so that you can come back together again at a more regular time frame, and it's more real, it's more in the moment, it's more what's happening now. So once you've been able to talk about that, then we move into the plan phase. And so we talk about what steps can you take to move forward? What is the plan for the next period of time? And it might be 2 months or 3 months, 6 months, I think, at the outset. But certainly I do them much more regularly, even every month, you know, or a couple of weeks, I think someone mentioned before too. So if you're tapping in for short periods of time, often, then those conversations are more real and they're in the moment. What resources do you need? How can you leverage your strengths? And how can I support you? So, you know, getting really clear around the plan for a specific period of time, you know, booking in the time to meet again at a more, you know, a closer time frame, so that that person feels valued. I've had a real conversation in real time. I know what I'm doing right now. I feel valued. We've had a great conversation. You know, so again, any other questions that you can think of that you'd like to add or brainstorm from around that plan phase, and I throw it out to the group again to have a think about some of those questions that you can ask to contain your performance conversation and sort of work on that plan. What are your thoughts around that? What opportunities can you see? Lovely. Yep, great question. Anything else? I think scaling questions can be really good here too. You know, a scale from 1 to 10. There's so many different kinds of questions in terms of resources, support, how ready you are, what you need, you know, confidence, motivation, all sorts of things that you can ask with scaling questions to get a gauge as to where someone's at. What are your most important goals for the next 3 months? Absolutely. Yep. So that's really great. And being able to step out a plan of action. What was it, as Paula said, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like to be able to, you know, get that result that you're looking for? So it becomes clearer for that person. What resources, what support, what tools do you need?
And for those people who aren't looking for a big career, because we've got lots of those in our organisations, they're very happy where they are. The other questions are, what of your strengths can we leverage to help the team? How can you be contributing to the team culture? Those sorts. It doesn't always have to be about growth and development. It could be, how can you be better contributing in with a team? What additional value can the team utilize? So it's looking at the two different perspectives.
I think that's really great too, Paula, and that sort of reminds me of, you know, using tools such as, you know, stop, start, more of, less of, and continue. So it's not always things we have to stop doing or start doing or do more of or less of, but what can we continue that's working well as well? So what can we continue on with? How can we support others around us, you know, to achieve whatever it is that they need to achieve? How do we become part of the team? How do we collaborate? You know, how do we call upon our own strengths so that we can feel fulfilled in what we're doing, even though I might be quite happy where I am and what I'm doing, so that I'm still part of the plan moving forward, the bigger picture moving forward. Any other questions that anyone else wants to add to our performance conversation model, or any questions that you want to ask of Paula and I at this point? Paula, is there anything else you want to add to the conversation?
Not at this stage. I think it's just, it truly is about adapting questions to make them feel authentic from yourself. Yeah. If the question reads in a way that you wouldn't ask it, that's okay. Find a way that makes it work for you.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for adding to the conversation around the performance conversation model. And as Paula says, tailoring those questions to suit your style, so that you're creating those performance conversations that's real, that's in the moment, and happening more regularly, more often. So just moving on to just as a reminder, we have our Leader as Coach programs, which has a new format, of course, which is very exciting. So we're doing half-day programs now over 2 half days. We also have the Certificate for and Workplace and Business Coaching and our diploma, of course, of organisational coaching. And there's a scan button there. If you scan it, it brings up actually, which I did this morning, it was very exciting. Had a look at that and it brought up all the bits and pieces from Open Doors. So you're welcome to scan that now while I've got that up. Oh, thanks, Michelle. Terrific. And also, so we've got that. And then also here, I'll just move the chat box out of the way, and I'll just move Paula and I over to the side as well, so that you can screenshot. Oh, hang on. Paula and I don't want to go anywhere, so we're just going to move us down here. Here we go. So you can screenshot that as well, so that you have the evidence of having attended today's coaching cafe. So thank you so much, Paula, for joining me today. And thank you for everyone else for joining us and contributing to the conversation as well. And we really look forward to seeing you again at another coaching cafe. Certainly there's another one on next week and the week after. So have a great week, everybody. And thanks for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.